They called him the math pirate because he had a big black eye patch over one eye and two peg legs. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, the rumor I heard, I don't know how true this was, is that he had like diabetes, but he like didn't really get it treated properly. So like, he started to lose his eyesight and had to amputate his legs. But he loved math education. He was super committed to it. So he'd still come in and he, be walking around, kind of talking, he had this big eye patch on, waddling down the hall.
He had all the charisma you would imagine somebody with an eye patch and a peg leg called the math pirate would have. So pretty amazing.
Let's start with utility. I don't understand what it even means.
Everybody has some kind of utils in their head that they're calibrating.
There's hardly anything that hasn't been used for money.
In fact, there may be a fundamental problem in modeling what I want to model.
We are hot off the heels of some incredible UEFN news. The entire model is changing. MTX is coming to the UEFN platform. Alex, I would like to introduce you as a podcaster.
Yes,
of the Fourth Curtain, as a fellow podcaster. You're out there, dude, doing the work. Putting in the videos, interviewing the people. What's that all about?
It is interesting to me. Like, I could never ever have predicted I would be doing what my life would be like right now. Like, even just like 3 years ago, like, this was not on the radar for me. But a couple of years ago, when I found myself a little bit of time on my hands, I love podcasts as a format. I listen to a lot. I wanted somebody to be telling the story of not my story, but like, all the game dev folks that I grew up admiring. I just wanted to hear those stories. So that's what it's about. And I love the format. I started as an audio guy, so I love audio.
I know, Alex, I've listened to you way back on the DOF podcast talking about where you guys were as a studio. You had started a new studio focusing on these type of endeavors. You did mods, which I'm curious to hear about. I don't know how that got slipped into the company roadmap, but I'm curious exploring that angle. You have a Gundam tie-in, so I'm going to be biased and ask about that. I also know you're a Chicago math guy, which I think Eric...
Yeah, we made that connection right there. We both have very difficult and not terribly useful degrees to obtain.
Yeah.
Right on, Eric.
Was Paul Sally there when you were there?
Yes, the Paul Sally, Diane Herman. They were the core of the math department.
Wow. Yeah, they were still there when I got there.
So
you should look up Paul Sally Jr. I think the picture says it more than anything else. They called him the math pirate because he had a big black eye patch over one eye and two peg legs. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, the rumor I heard, I don't know how true this was, is that he had like diabetes, but he like didn't really get it treated properly. So like, he started to lose his eyesight and had to amputate his legs. But he loved math education. He was super committed to it. So he'd still come in and he, be walking around, kind of talking. He had this big eye patch on, waddling down the hall.
Was he hardcore?
Yeah.
What do you mean by hardcore?
Just like a strict math disciplinarian?
Get something wrong, you lose a finger.
That fourth picture where it says, "It's calculus, motherfucker." I took that picture.
He had all the charisma you would imagine somebody with an eye patch and a peg leg called the math pirate would have. So pretty amazing.
So last time we had checked in, like I went back and I like briefed some of the old Deconstructor Fun podcast you had with Pete Holly. Checking on UEFN, dashed hopes. Felt like the kind of theme is like, hey, we have all these things writing for UEFN. It feels like they're being communicative, right? I think we got to give Epic like a huge, this is the universal feedback I've heard from everyone. Super communicative on what the roadmap is. They publish it publicly. They responsive to feedback. Tim usually goes out and very proactive. What could I add to the platform? They did deep linking. I think that was one of the big requests. They have a public API that like I developed a package for like retention. So you can see other islands and how they're performing, which I think is very nice. The black box still exists. But it seemed like everyone was really burnt out. The numbers weren't growing. And then they come out with this announcement that we're on the heels of that you will finally be able to add MTX to your islands. Not only that, they're I won't say solving, but attacking the user acquisition problem with a sponsored row that there's now an auction system for, which is another econ specialty, is there's now going to be your usual sealed second price bidding for ad inventory.
Wow,
but
they're doing on-platform ad bidding?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And not only that, the money will swish back into the system so that all the money that goes towards bidding for that advertiser space will go back to engagement-based payouts or will go back to payouts in the ecosystem. So they're not even taking the ad revenue. It's just an allocation mechanic. Does this change everything?
It definitely changes the short-term, midterm outlook on the platform. for us as a developer here.
Mm.
Absolutely. 100%. I characterize it like that because I have always been bullish on this platform. Throughout all of our conversations with Epic, I firmly believe that Epic at least intends for this UEFN to be the foundation of their 10 plus year plan. So for them, it's fairly critical for it to be successful. And success means that it is a content engine for keeping players engaged. So it has to work for high quality content. This is to me, more than anything, this is a signal that they're serious. We have been asking for commercial features on this platform since it launched. They've had many of the features that we've asked for on a theoretical roadmap. All of the commerce features like this, not on the roadmap and unknown. And even up until, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks ago, sort of the message was, we're thinking. So to see and this was a surprise to me that they went this far. As a developer, it's a very, very, very meaningful signal. We'll see what it does to revenue. Like on any platform that has a lot of users, a mechanic like this that's in the hands of the developer usually means a lot more revenue, which I think will be very good for not just developers, but the platform. I think the platform needs to have really high health in order to be successful long term. So, I mean, it's a win all the way around, I think, except potentially, because I have to give Mark Rain and Tim Sweeney over at Epic a lot of credit because they didn't build this from scratch, right? This is something that exploded for them a dozen years into the company, and they're trying to channel it into something new. And for them, I think they have a lot of credibility, history, sunk cost, revenue, whatever, goodwill, investors, cap table, all of that is at stake for them. And so they are taking some risk here, I think, with just at least how they're perceived philosophically in the industry. They've been very, very vocal in creating equitable ecosystems in terms of sort of distribution rev share and all that. So all of that is for folks like you guys studying economies and systems, their decision-making process is, I think, kind of complex from that POV. So I give them a lot of credit for taking this risk. It's kind of a one-way door. I don't think they can put the toothpaste back in the tube after this. There's my hot take dump on the feels of the last week of post that news.
Alex, I'd be curious if you could give us an idea of how this commercial feature or revenue operations feature differs from what Roblox offers, and is it a competitive advantage now that UEFN has compared to Roblox from the point of view of a developer?
I would say that this one thing, how they're doing their microtransactions, I would say it's getting them closer. It's table stakes, right? I read Joe from GameFam a few weeks ago posted on LinkedIn a long post about UEFN's not a platform and listing out sort of reasons why. And I think that isn't exactly the right. It's definitely a platform. I think really the question is it a good platform? And when you compare it to what we consider other distribution mechanisms that have discovery and monetization involved with them, Roblox in particular, when you compare the two, you can see the deficiencies in what UEFN has to offer, and MTX gets it closer, but it's not a competitive advantage yet. I mean, they're offering better rev share. That's a competitive advantage. There isn't an exchange rate to get V-Bucks out into dollars, so that's a competitive advantage. But that's unit economics. How far does that go? It's really about how strong of a sustainable business I can build on the platform. So there still are commercial features that we need, but those I think are easy things. It's just mechanical things for Epic to just have the bandwidth and time to produce, like attribution and all that other kind of stuff, which is I have very, very high confidence we'll get now. So if I'm, if my point of view is I started a company to sort of build in these spaces because I saw cost advantages to build there. I saw I could get as close to the metal as possible as terms as interacting with an audience. I actually build there where everybody's playing and everybody builds there. So it's way more community, all of those things super attractive. Now, if Epic puts an ad up about their microtransactions economics, and it has the word Roblox on that ad because they're comparing their rev share to Roblox's, now we have a competitive ecosystem with more than one platform. And for a developer like me, who wants to be able to create the next Star Wars here. That's amazing. It's like, wow, we got something cooking now. And then over on the side over here, you have Meta going, oh, these platforms are eating our social lunch. These kids are playing Roblox more than they're on Insta.
Mhm.
What are we doing? So, they're not afraid to write a few $billion checks to build Horizon. So like this is 2 years ago, this was very much just a place to build. And now I think it's a meaningful part of the industry. I couldn't be more excited.
I don't understand what the end game is. It's like when you've been talking about the studio and like what the opportunity in UGC is, I look at something like Adopt Me, which is one of the most successful games on the Roblox platform. And they might top out, I remember the last check was around 70 million that they're making. So that's not the top line in terms of total. But when you go through the dev share program, you're looking at maybe 70 million. That's the top performing title, right? And then you get your normal.
No, it's not. Look at Grow a Garden. Grow a Garden's on $180 million run rate. That's a $1 billion asset right now.
Do you think that's a sustainable number?
My answer to that is yes. Look at Steal the Brain Rot. I mean, it's doing it's being even bigger, and now that's cross-platform. Those are IPs now. Like whether the owners of that asset decide to reinvest in that IP, grow that IP, port that IP to other media places. I don't know. You remember Angry Birds? Got pretty close to creating a movie franchise out of their little 99-cent mobile game.
Hey, the third one's coming. We're not done.
Yeah. See, there you go. There's your
I
answer.
think we need to describe what brain rot.
Steal a brain rot.
Steal the brain
You're
rot.
telling me this is going to be IP? How is that? I don't even understand.
It is IP.
You just don't understand the kids, Chris.
I know. I tried to like Google it and I didn't get very far.
The advertising people like to name all the generations, and we have a Gen Alpha and we have a Gen Z. I don't really understand what those labels really mean, but I can tell you behaviorally, these kids have grown up inside of these gaming ecosystems where it's not just play. It's play, it's create, it's share, discover, monetize. These are entire ecosystems that start with play and end with monetization. And whether all these kids are making or not, they're in a community where making is part of the action, So they just experience and value content through a different lens, Steal the Brain Rot. I think is like a fantastic example of that, where it's like, you look at it from the outside of where your experience is growing up with games, and you're like, you kind of do the dog head tilt at it, but it makes perfect sense, if you look at it from the other angle.
So I went into a toy store recently. So I sometimes go into toy stores and I do like a stock check, and I try to see the share of the shelves that we as a game industry have. Like, what are the share of toys that are based on gaming IP? And to your point, you've got 80% of kids in the United States playing Roblox, and like add in Brawl Stars and all these other things. I mean, we must have 100% coverage. Yet I see the amount of shelf space we demand in terms of toys, and we're like maybe 20%. And so like it feels like these IPs on Roblox or on even just the IPs we're making in general in games are ephemeral. Like when we talk about Steal the Brain Rot, there isn't a lot of IP value in that. There isn't a lot of IP value in Grow a Garden. Like this is the flavor of the week. This is the dish of the week. Like it feels like potential riffraff. It could be the criticism that's thrown at it, right?
It's not characters like you can't.
The merch thing is a different issue.
It could be. I think it really depends on. I mean, look, a lot of these games. Here's another interesting thing about these platforms is that a lot of these games that are popping and going viral are created by folks who are new to everything. It's not always the case, but like if you look at what happened at the beginning of the year, the game Brookhaven on Roblox is a game created by a father and son duo, and it grew with the platform. And Voldex comes in and acquires it for over $100 million. Do you think they're going to just sit on it? Do you think that's just going to be a cute little social town? That investment is indicative of the value of that IP and where it has to go from here forward. And it's been on top of the charts for like 5+ years. So I think the ephemeral nature of flavor of the week is just is a side effect of where this platform has kind of come from and who has so far built it. But as it gets, what is it, 350 million people on here a month?
Craziness.
It's a bigger channel than any other game channel.
I'm kind of on Phil's side here. When I think about like IP, I think about the Halo helmet in the background of your, like everybody in our demographic knows what that is. Instantaneously, I, put a helmet like that on in Helldivers, and I feel, I feel something positive. How do you get that? I would say, like, for me, it's a little bit more confusing when I think about Roblox, because in Roblox, like, it's a little bit more homogenous. Like, the environments feel more homogenous than the Xbox game collection. How do you generate something that's both distinguished and can stand the test of time? When I think about like these titles in
Yeah.
Roblox that, like, the flavor of the week or whatever.
Yeah, part of it is time. I mean, how long has Minecraft been out? And we got our Minecraft movie this year, and you watch the footage of all the kids in the theater like reacting to all the inside jokes and memes. I mean, in some ways it's about the demographic of the audience that's playing the particular thing. But Minecraft has been around for a long time. We'll see how long Roblox is going to stick around for, but it's been around for what, 12, 15 years?
I think it's here to
Yeah.
stay. But
Yeah.
it's not Roblox that's the IP, right? It's these.
Can you survive separately from the the umbilical cord of Roblox? Can Adopt Me survive outside of that? I mean, I wrote a piece a while back. Like, take BattleBit. Like, think of both directions. BattleBit is a game that kind of had these bloxy characters, Battlefield style, 4 developers, releases on Steam, $15. Kids make a bunch of money. PSU does what it does. Technically, you couldn't put that on Roblox because of the server side restrictions, but assume you could put that on. Like, wouldn't you want to put something like BattleBit on Roblox, and wouldn't you want to put something like Adopt Me on Steam?
I mean, I think the answer to both of those questions is yes, but I look at it as a why not. I mean, like the total addressable market, is it the sum? Steam plus Roblox, is it how much Venn diagram overlap is there? I don't know.
Part of the appeal of these UGC platforms is they take care of a bunch of like DevOps stuff that you don't want to deal with, like servers and, payment processing and stuff.
That is definitely part of the appeal.
And so if you're going to go Steam and iOS and Roblox, aren't you like doing a bunch of work that the platform isn't actually saving you effort on?
Well, I mean, maybe that is part of the wall to break through, to have an IP sort of crest over the chasm, is like you can build, and this was part of our original thesis. We'll see how much of this actually comes through, but because these platforms are low cost to build, you can build very quickly. They come with content libraries. They do cover your O-core, so you're not paying for servers, you're not running matchmaking, etc. You can build a new IP in months for tens of thousands instead of tens of millions, right? So let's say you have an IP that pops on one of these platforms. Could you then take from one platform to another? Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's what Steal the Brainrot's doing right now. They, top of the charts on Roblox, now top of the charts on Fortnite. Can you then go to mobile, or can you then go to Steam? Yes, more cost, but I would argue if you have an Adopt Me, or if you have something where the IP is really working and you've proved it out on a platform that was easy to access, why not? Why leave that money on the table?
That to me seems like a more compelling endgame for UEFN shops, though, is to start, and I would argue like the problem in HD right now is that it's very hard to validate demand. You got all these like VC alums going out and falling on their face.
Yeah, no, the problem with AAA is that you have to spend $50+ million to make a game, and you're fighting over 6% of the market on a new title. Why? That ROI sucks. I mean, like, you can build a game on these platforms that have, and you know where the other 94% of the market is? They're on Roblox.
But
it's that simple.
But isn't the idea that I can get off of this, like with Verse? I can go from UEFN to a full
that is
SKU
part of
on
why
EGS.
that's why I'm very bullish on Epic, is because that's their vision, is that UEFN and UE6 does merge. The future of the tech stack is Verse and Scene Graph. Those are two parts of two parts of their tech stack that they're piloting in UEFN. So they are sort of training a whole generation of game developers to use UE6 before UE6 comes out. And the fact that you can build in either ecosystem and deploy to any Epic surface, grain of salt. When Epic says they're going to do something, you just have to look at the timeline and take the dates off and just say, maybe this is ordering.
Valve time? What was it, Valve? I forget what they called it.
Valve time.
Why is Epic?
But yeah, I think that's a really powerful part of the vision. So yeah. I don't know. Look, I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've seen structural shifts in sort of distribution and platforms and new tech every 5 to 10 years happens, right? this feels kind of like we've got a new toy here that we can play with, and it could do some really interesting things that we haven't been able to do before. Very high value being able to create new IP quickly and test it. The question of can it go anywhere from there? If you just peel it back to, hey, there's an IP here, there's a game here, there's a character, a world that millions of people like, put a period at the end of that sentence and say, hey, does that have any value? The answer to that is yes.
Well, why is Epic building dev tools in so many strata? So they've got Fortnite Creative, which is in Fortnite. Then they've got UEFN, which is like a little more complex. And then they got like, full on Unreal. Like, are they just hedging their bets? Is like there a tactical reason to be at these different levels?
Well, I mean, I think they would describe it as, yes, there are strategic reasons for having different entry points. And it's because I think they believe, maybe not too dissimilar from what I'm talking about, how games can enter at any point in that ecosystem and they can be portable and move around within those ecosystems. I think the reality is that some had an idea for introducing creative mode to Fortnite, and it was pretty successful. Like, it was very engaging, and I think they saw the value in having the players creating content for Fortnite. And when they opened it up, they realized they had an advantage, and they do have an advantage here, that they have some exceptional technology and the ability to build tools that can visualize really interesting things, and that led to the creation of UEFN. So now creative mode and UEFN, do they overlap? Do we need both? That's, I think, a legit question. It may be a side effect for just how they were developed, but I don't know. I'm not in there day to day.
So there's kind of this
Epic.
dark horse. There's this dark horse in the UGC wars, I guess we could call it. Like, I look at Roblox as the evil empire, and I think increasingly people start to see it as such. Like, they own the whole stack. Like, they come in for all of it. And UEFN, again, I think that's a very material point that you can offload, which is protection. It's protection from UEFN, is that you can offload, especially onto EGS or Steam or something. But the dark horse is like, you've got GTA, right, which is increasingly investing, it looks like, in their creator community, in their UGC tools. But then you have like all these games that were trying to build UGC with inside of the game, right? So we think about even like Battlefield's Portal, Halo's The Forge, Eggy Party, Fall Guys, Stumble Guys. All these games were coming out with UGC platforms, and it feels like the results have been mediocre. The great promise of UGC as like supplementing the content flywheel or like helping satiate players, it just feels like it didn't pan out to the degree that it was promised. Like, these things feel like they really haven't been growing to the degree you would expect if they were successful. Is that a fair assessment of like this category of UGC?
I think so. I mean, I would say, there are what Roblox was able to hurt, like, they had the intention to build a platform and an ecosystem, and they were able to hurdle the critical mass to make it self-sustaining. And that what it is. Epic has the same intention, and they started with some critical mass, and we'll see how self-sustaining it becomes. If we, I think they need to have another growth phase in order for them to be okay, this is going to be forever. All the other ones that you're talking about, and maybe GTA is different because they have such an outsized audience and a different customer base. It's older. But all the other ones you're talking about, where it's like, okay, we UGC, yeah, let's let users be able to create platform, users be able to create content, are really just tool sets. It's not build, discover, monetize. It's build so we have more content in the system, and it's fun, and it's a feature of the game, and that's great. I don't know. The other platform I might sort of put in the mix of the conversation is Overwolf. I don't know if you're familiar with Overwolf, but basically Overwolf fills that the other two parts of the circle. There's the tool that lets you create, but then without a way to generate discovery and monetization, you don't complete a loop of a platform. And Overwolf basically completes that loop for, say, Arc. You mentioned, you guys have done some mods. Yeah, we've worked with Overwolf on Arc, and those have been super successful for us, just from a business, like money in, money out. And it's because Overwolf provides the last two legs of the loop for to help make sort of platformatize a UGC feature. But a UGC feature on its own, a creation, a tool, and on its own is does not a platform make.
So why don't we see more of like the Steam marketplace then, or like, you know, some of Overwolf's features being in front of like these main distribution channels? Like it feels like free labor, right? Like I played The Witcher after I saw the Netflix TV show. I first time I ever played The Witcher was after the Netflix TV show, and I wanted Henry Cavill's face as The Witcher, right? And I knew there were mods and they were strong supporters of the community over at CD Projekt Red, and I was surprised about how much of a pain in the ass it was to get any of this done. And I was ready to hand over $10 to get Henry Cavill's face on there. The mods feel like they haven't taken off. It feels like growth has been stunted even for Overwolf or mod.io. Like I would expect better results by now, right? And it still feels so cumbersome.
Look, you know, game development is complicated. It's hard and it's expensive. And, you know, The Witcher has, you know, CD Projekt Red has a very fantastic business, and The Witcher is an incredible property that they've built, you know, from a Polish language novel into a global phenomenon. The fact that they haven't built an entire UGC platform is just not their, it's not their end game, right? So that's fine. Phil, that's fine, you know? Just use your imagination to get Henry Cavill on. Yeah.
What's your issue, Bill?
Well, maybe these meta glasses will do it for me.
Issue that CD Projekt Red hasn't made a UGC platform? Is that, or are you saying they should switch over to UEFN?
I just smell money.
Phil wants to do all the things all the time. Yeah, I mean, sure. Maybe there's definitely opportunity left on the table there. Sounds like at least $10. Your $10.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Phil, you do cosmetics monetization stuff. You know, nobody wants to buy cosmetics for a single player game.
No, not at all. Not at all. Although for this one, there might be an exception. Like if they wrapped in like a Netflix edition, I would be. That actually was a missed opportunity. I would have paid $70 for that.
Remastered Netflix edition.
All right, so let me ask you this. This is a really good observation, I would say, by Matthew Paul. And this is one thing he put in his like original state of the gaming decks, or he might have put it in a separate essay, where he talks about the evolution of songs with vinyl, the introduction of vinyl, and how there were limitations on how long a song could be based on the size of a vinyl disc. And he was demonstrating how important the medium is to shaping the content and how that's a conversation, especially in something like gaming. So now you've got this monetization, which is coming into UEFN. How do you expect it to change the type of games that are being made? Do you expect there to be a meta shift now that monetization is a part of the ecosystem?
I do think it will have an impact. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, it's like people are, well, you know, not everybody is building to make money on this platform. You know, there's a lot of just pure creativity and fun and sharing, etc. So I think we will always see things that look experimental, things that look just like interesting, fun pieces of content. But for those that are looking at this feature as an opportunity to, you know, make money, yeah, it's going to change the kinds of games that are on there, because we're going from a model that rewards minutes played to a model that rewards transaction. So it's, you know, there are different systems and designs and genres and game types that work better in a transactional model than an engagement-based model. So yeah.
How have because I mean, you're kind of an OG developer, probably the most famous, at least as far as I'm concerned, video game IP of all time. What was it like developing a product like Halo compared to a product you know, in UEFN with Look North, like the types of products you're building, and obviously the monetization is completely different. But
yeah,
how's that shaped your, like, what's your joy level with gaming and like being a game developer?
That is, Chris. That is. I love that question, because I have been through like every shade of, what's the opposite of joy? Dread? No, I don't know, but whatever.
Yeah,
I've been through all the cycles, you know, and I will say, I will say the development of a game like Halo and the development of a game on UEFN are on pretty different ends of the spectrum. Not necessarily the joy hate spectrum. Misery, not necessarily. I mean, actually, for me, they're on similar ends of the joy spectrum. But I'll tell you a couple of things that are very different, and some of them are obvious, right? Like a game like Halo takes 3+ years today. It probably takes 5+ years to make, and it's a huge investment. So there's high expectations. Both of the processes are very, very iterative. So you make, you try, you play, you remake, try, play, remake, try, and play. You go through way more one-way doors on a AAA game development, so you have to weigh decisions a lot more carefully as you go through your gates and various steps. Once you get into production, it's really hard, nigh impossible to go back to pre-production and redo a fundamental system so that you can then go forward in production. That's called Duke Nukem Forever. On the other side, the whole game cycle is only 3 months, so you just ship it and try again. So that's very different. I'll tell you personally, though, my level of daily engagement in terms of sort of being in the mix, thinking intellectually about what we're doing, being excited about it, has never been higher today, ever. And it's very reminiscent of what it was like back in, the early Xbox days of experimenting, inventing, pushing a piece of tech we never used before. All of that feels very much the same. The midpoints of my career where it's been about, sort of trying to optimize for a platform that has some maturity to it. To me personally, that has just felt less interesting, less personally motivating. It's kind of like, an optimization problem is set instead of a discovery problem. I'll tell you, like right now, I like to think we're kind of leading the charge. I feel like we are. Maybe we're not, but like I feel like it. And that's a great feeling, on a brand new platform. So
statistically speaking, you probably are.
Yeah. So, I mean, like process-wise, there's a lot of differences, some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
But on the personal enjoyment side, it's like, yeah, this is freaking awesome. It's like I've shipped 30 games in the last couple of years. You know how many games I shipped in the 3 years before that? 0. God.
Hey, rest in peace, Battlefield Mobile. That's a separate
There you go.
conversation. But someone told me Soderlund would clear his calendar for you. By the way, that's a very high calendar.
Wow.
Only person Soderlund clears his calendar for.
I got a pink. I really like Patrick. We didn't get to spend a ton of time together, but he's very tall.
He is very tall. Very intimidating in meetings.
He was very kind to me.
Can I go on a rant about the Fortnite economy?
Please, Eric. Please have the floor.
Because I think part of this is framing why the monetization announcement is such a big deal. And part of this, because I really want to ask Alex about this, because I've watched this stuff from afar, but I've never actually developed in UEFN or anything. So, context for listeners. So obviously, you all know Fortnite has their UGC platform. And is this kind of part of Tim's anti-platform crusade where he's trying to fight against Apple and fight against Steam, right? And so it seems to me the Fortnite creative was somewhat heavily subsidized, and they tried to do things the right way. And part of this might be tech limitations, but originally they monetized games mostly based on engagement. They're like, developers, don't worry about monetizing your game. We will pay you based on the amount of engagement it drives to the system. Almost in like a YouTube-like way where don't worry about the business, just worry about the creative creation. And they used basically a $1 per hour heuristic in order to distribute those funds and said, okay, if you drive this many engagement hours, you get this amount of payout. And the dollars per hour for Fortnite Creative was about half of that of Fortnite Battle Royale. But this creates this weird thing where if everyone's getting paid at the same rate, the content that kind of draws hours more cheaply than the super high quality but low time content wins out, right? I don't want to call it arbitrage, but it's something like that. And so you saw a lot of these games that basically had all these login and retentive awards. Oh, if you play for 30 minutes, you get this extra bonus. And there's all these incentives laid out in the game to extend your time so that they could, optimize the algorithm. And a lot of this, I think initially it was a belief that if you focus purely on engagement, you'll get better games. And part of the reason the free-to-play app store on mobile is so crowded with garbage is because, they're like, oh, monetize your own. And, they just stuff you with, arguably predatory microtransactions and advertising and stuff. But they're pivoting, and they're pivoting hard. I think this MTX will grow to become the primary method. I'm curious what you think, Alex. Do you think the engagement-based system will still be, 20 to 50%, or do you think it's just going to be mostly MTX and basically the games, it's on the games to monetize themselves?
Yeah, that's a very good question, good observation. I think that some bit of your sort of narrative there around why engagement was the model and how it's worked is correct. Some has some nuance to it. They did defend a FTC lawsuit about basically their COPA compliance. So they have a high sensitivity to how they're monetizing on the platform because of their settlement with the FTC. And in addition, Tim philosophically does not want the platform to go the same route as other free-to-play platforms like mobile and Roblox, in their opinion, promoting sort of predatory microtransaction mechanics. So I would add those two bits of nuance, and like I was saying before, they do have a lot to lose. So it is a bit risky for them to sort of introduce a fair amount of unknown that may not align with their philosophical approach to the game industry. So we'll see if they do change a little bit of the weighting between engagement and microtransaction. My hope, think about like how they set up their engagement payout. Basically, they're taking the revenue pool for all transaction on their battle pass. That's their sort of primary driver of revenue in Fortnite. And they're sharing that with everybody. So in order for the platform to grow, that top line has to grow. And the majority of the burden there is on Epic to provide that growth. I mean, the theory is, well, we'll have a lot of content, so we'll get a lot of players in, but ultimately they have to go through some storefront that Epic controls in order to grow the platform. What microtransactions are going to do for the platform, regardless of like how I design my game and I make money, et cetera, and the quality of my business, is it's going to spread that burden of growing the top line revenue of the platform across the entire ecosystem. To me, that's a huge growth driver. That gives me hope that genius developers like my peers will come up with some new stuff that will start generating more revenue and will be incremental to the revenue that the Epic storefront is generating.
Wait, so when you say it's redistributed, does that mean, let's say your creative game has some MTX, does some of that get redistributed among the whole developer pool, or is it mostly just go to you?
Yeah, no, Epic is going to take, they're going to give me 70% of it, and 30% of it's going to go to Epic.
But does that 30% get redistributed in the pool, or is that just going straight to Epic?
No, it doesn't go back to the pool. I think Epic takes this as revenue.
The sponsor ad revenue goes into the pool, but the MTX revenue goes to the platform, i.e. Epic.
I know the Roblox rev shares is like famously 30, 70, 30 to the developer, 70 to Roblox. What is it on UEFN on average?
I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me. They just announced it, and it's got like, it's 100% of developers from December 1st through the end of the year. And then I think it's the other way around, 70-30.
For everything else. Okay, so it's kind of comparable.
No, they are very public about their rev share is better because is marketing a more developer advantageous revenue share.
There's this notion, how do I call it? Like incentive determinism, where like the way the YouTube algorithm is set up will incentivize certain content. So when they incentivize views, you got a lot of meme videos. When they incentivize watch length, you got a lot of long form let's plays. And this kind of to Phil's point about like, why not multi-platform? How much do you believe in this kind of incentive determinism where like whatever system Fortnite ends up stabilizing on is going to determine the type of content that gets surfaced?
Well, we'll see. I would argue that creating a piece of like a game is a little bit longer form, more complex than creating videos. It's a little harder to go. I mean, you can, but it's just it's like one step harder to go back and remix your game content to take advantage of, hey, we're changing the algorithm to quadruple incentivize new players to the platform. They do that, right? I think, it will. I think it will. Yeah. I think it will shape, but I think it will be less moment to moment than say like YouTube, just because of the production timelines are just a little bit more complicated. But yeah, definitely. I mean, they already do that. Like Epic is, it is black box, but they are sort of transparent about the components that go into it. It's not just engagement. I mean, it's not just playtime. There is an incentive for bringing new players to the platform. There is an incentive for re-engaging lapsed players. How much control do we really have around that? I mean, some of that is designed to get us to market our games off platform, to get somebody to play our game that wouldn't necessarily play Fortnite. It's, on UEFN, I think that's a little bit harder than say on a Roblox because it's Fortnite, So it's like, how effective is a tycoon game at getting somebody to come and download 5 gigabytes of Battle Royale to play the tycoon game?
You'd be surprised on what's going on in mobile, like the fake ad revolution.
And it's funny, there aren't a lot of those fake ads actually getting turned into real games.
Absolutely.
Because the click-through rate on the fake ads is so good. But anyways, it is, Eric, it's all fascinating, just like how those little decisions on things like an engagement payout or the design of the monetization system from the platform side incentivizes the developers to make the games. And I think you're right. In a platform like Roblox or Fortnite, where it is a lot faster to make a game than AAA, the developers do have the opportunity to really consider the knobs and dials and rules to maximize their revenue. I don't think any developer should be shy about that being a goal if you're running a business. Yes, we are artists and we're making new incredible games, but it's also a business. I think it will have an impact for sure. That's just Machiavelli, right? No, Adam Smith. One of those books we read in high.
Some old guy said this before. Yeah.
There's a Milton Friedman statue now out here, like a little shrine you have. Something kind of out of left field. Where is China in all of this? Where is China in this UGC race? We talk about the influence of the East and how they're growing in terms of AAA development. They're completely absent from this conversation. What's going on? Where's the imperialism? Why are they not in the arena? I'm confused.
Well, I think the game industry in China is doing fine. It's doing very
Seems
well.
Good.
Yeah, I think they're leaning into what's working. Don't forget that Tencent owns 40% of Epic.
Yep, that's a good point.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are quite a few Chinese companies on Roblox's cap table somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know, though. I think TikTok is, and honestly, I don't know what the fate of TikTok in the US is really. Who knows what this month, what's happening, but they've been with ByteDance in and around games as well. I know a lot of companies in the East are very interested in UGC. Some of them have spun up some UGC platforms as well. Haven't really stuck as much. I know Genshin is, I think, probably thinking about. I think they announced a thing they're doing. So it's not easy turning, like we talked about earlier. UGC is a feature, but creator platform is more than just the UGC feature. So it's hard to just. It's kind of like, I think one of you is it has an esports background. Yes? No?
Yeah. I worked at Riot and I just play a lot of sports games.
Yeah. So like, you remember the day when that was the feature flavor of the week and every developer had, it's going to be an esport. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of hard to put esport as a feature on a title. I mean, you could make a competitive title that maybe could graduate to become an esport if you have the critical mass and you have the competitive, like the actual design works for it. Can you put creator? Well, I guess if you're Manticore, you can put creator platform on your business plan, but as evidenced by them, it's hard to do. Same with what was the other guys that just pivoted out of being creator platform? Whatever. It's hard. I guess that's my point. It's hard. So where's China? China's doing just fine.
Rec Room.
Yeah. Rec Room. That's who I was thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah.
China.
Alex, I have a question about like being a developer on these platforms. When I'm looking at the production cycle of these products, a lot of times, like what I'm imagining is going on in these developers' brains is like they put something out there, and if it's consumed, then they just put it out there again, and they try and they're almost like emulating the things that are successful. Whereas if I think about this from like a data scientist's point of view, working in an individual company, I am optimizing with only data that I have available within my own business. So, okay, this type of creative is more popular than this type of creative. Okay, this type of outfit, this type of gameplay is more attractive. I guess, what does the feedback look like? What does the feedback loop look like on these platforms, especially from your point of view? Do you have like highly sophisticated data analytics and tools that you're able to optimize? I know they have some of that in Roblox, or is it just like, oh, that was successful, let's do a little bit more of that, let's move closer to that direction? Concurrent users and revenue, like that's all that matters.
These platforms do have a lot of data. I mean, there's a lot of players on here. There's a lot of content. Way more players, way more content than any. Well, I don't know. Not more players than mobile, obviously, but as far as like one repository of data, that's native, it's very, very data rich. Hats off to Epic. This is one place where they are ahead of Roblox for publishing their data API a couple months ago. We drink from all the fire hoses. So we have a cross-platform data set that scrapes every game, every platform as much as we can.
God.
And we have a natural language front end to it. So we absolutely use these data sets to inform what kinds of games we should be making. We have an acquisition business, what kind of games we should be investing in. I think has never been more useful or important on a platform that moves so quickly and has so many players. That said, look at what is successful on these platforms. The ground up success comes from creators that have grown up here, you speak the language, who are native and have been part of the community for years. You kind of got to put a grain of salt on like how far data is going to get you. I think anything in our industry that's built on comps, you're looking in a rear view mirror to decide to go where to go to next, and that is absolutely useful and informative. It doesn't necessarily give you any answers, It gives you information, which makes you hopefully smarter.
Our guest today has been Alex Seropian. You are the CEO of Look North World, and more importantly, the host at The Fourth Curtain. You've done a lot of collabs. You've experimented and dabbled in a lot of UC platforms, and I'm sure this news is going to bolster your outlook, it seems like.
We're very excited about what's happening on these platforms. The news out of Epic last week was met with cheers and a lot of optimism about the future for the game industry in general. That's another thing that is I love about what we're doing. There's just a lot of excitement and heat and growth happening in this part of the industry, which is I think it's a little bit of a contrast to other parts of the industry which has maybe struggled. So that's just another great thing about what's going on these platforms. Well, if you want to listen to The Fourth Curtain, you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. I'll preview that we will have an episode with the founder of Electronic Arts, Trip Hawkins, coming out in a couple of weeks. That's a fascinating conversation. We have games at Look North World coming out every month. We'll have a couple coming out in October for Halloween. So you can find us on Fortnite and now on Roblox. Very excited. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much. Pleasure.
It was a pleasure to meet you, Alex. Thank you so much.
We should teach this to our children. Economics is major. Everyone has to major in economics. Number one, for personal survival. Economics is major.